hello, and welcome to the first episode of Talent Talks. I don't know if that's going to stick. You guys tell me if you have a better suggestion after you listen to a couple, put them in the comments. I like not married to the name at all. So Talent Talk seems to make sense because what we're going to do is talk about different things related to the talent acquisition process. And as I was putting together sort of the how do we do that? Like what order should we go in? There were lots of different thoughts, but really we settled on what is the very first thing that an applicant typically sees when they're applying for a job, and that is the job description or job ad. So today with me, I have a couple of guests from Joveo. As many of you know, that's sort of my new gig. I am working with Joveo, very bullish on programmatic, feel like it's a great solution for finding good candidates no matter what the economy is, right? Like if it's a tight economy, it'll help you find more candidates inexpensively. If it's a tight economy, it'll help you find quality candidates inexpensively. So I've decided to sit in this chair at least for a while. And since I've been sitting in this chair, I've had an opportunity to work with some really great folks. So I have a couple of guests on the call with me today. I'm going to start with you, Shehzad. Shehzad is the head of marketing for Joveo, and it is amazing. Just to be real honest, we're sort of like hooked together at the hip since I started. We've become very fast friends, and thank you for being willing to join today, Shehzad. Could you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Jen. And I think the pleasure and honor is all mine to have a partner like yourself on board. As the VP of Global Marketing for Joveo, I'm responsible for building and scaling Joveo's brand across global markets, as well as growing our demand in the different industries and geographical markets that we operate. I also do a little bit in terms of enabling our sales and partnership teams. That's, those are the three or four things that I look at every day.
Thought is very humble. So one of the things that I would say is being in talent acquisition and the marketing side of talent acquisition for several years, the one thing that I have learned very quickly from Shehzad is the depth of knowledge around search engine optimization and just really how to make the most of leads. So Shehzad, you were humble, but I thank you, and I thank you for adding value to this conversation today. And then also on the call today, we have Adi. And Adi is what are your, I think your title is like Recruitment Marketing Specialist, something along those lines. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Jen. Thank you. So my role here is that of a recruitment marketing specialist, and I come from a sales background. I was at Freshworks earlier for about a year, and now I've joined Joveo. And my role here is essentially to find prospects for Joveo and try to qualify them before handing them over to the sales team and move it further down the pipeline.
And so thank you for joining, and especially for joining not to talk about your current role, right? So Adi's new to the team. We are actually have him on the call today to talk about like what was it like to be a job seeker when you were looking for jobs? What did you see? What rang true? What didn't? So you're sort of like our feet on the street expert. So thank you for being willing to sort of tell us about your job search experience, especially knowing it ended up here. So here's where I want to start, right? So I sort of have used the term job description and job advertisement interchangeably, but the reality is there's a difference between those two, right? Like a job advertisement is the SEO friendly description, keyword heavy, why someone would want to work here or at any company, right? It's like but then the job description, some people use the same thing for both, but just for the sake of this conversation, I want to sort of draw the line for our viewers. The job description, it's really like the legal language or the legal description of what a job is. And it is almost always used by the compensation and benefits team to price jobs or to determine FLSA status or, job status. Are you contract? Are you not? So we're not talking about that. We're not talking about, the buttoned up, this is how we price jobs. We're talking about how do we put keywords in there to get people attracted to your job. So want to just sort of set the stage there. And wanted to start by asking Shehzad a couple of just foundation questions, Shehzad. Right. So is SEO important in a job description?
It's extremely important. And I think one of the things that I always love to talk about is, and I see a lot of progress being made in the right direction there, is people that are doing candidate sourcing or recruitment are increasingly starting to think like marketers. And it's kind of natural, right? Because in marketing, we're going after attracting the right customers that would be a fit for our product. Similarly, in the recruitment world, you're trying to reach out to candidates that would be a fit for your job. SEO has been a huge topic of discussion in the marketing world since more than a decade now. And it's only natural that we do the same in the recruitment marketing or in the job advertising space. Let's say you're spending a huge amount of effort into crafting a brilliant job ad or a job description, but if your candidates cannot find you on search engines or even within the destination site, there's no point of doing that. You're doing yourself a huge disservice if your candidates can't even look at the piece of art that you just put together that you call your job ad.
So truth, right? So let's check that, right? Like we assume that, right, Shehzad, we're in the business of marketing, so of course we're all about the SEO. It's I've tried to make a business case for that for several years. Like, why do you do things? Why do you write rich sites? Why do you write rich job descriptions? So Adi, you tell us, when you came to look for this job, or when you were looking for what you were going to do next, did you go to how did you do that? Did you search broadly with some terms or some titles? Give us a little bit of background on how you looked for this job.
Right. So I had decided on a few titles that I was interested in. Right. That would be, for example, inside sales, sales executive, business development executive. Very broad search titles that I had decided on. That these are the kind of jobs that I want to apply to. So I just basically I went on Google and I said, okay, business development executive jobs in Hyderabad, right? And then it would show me a bunch of results from job boards saying that, okay, we have 800 jobs for business development executive in Hyderabad by for example, Indeed or Monster. So there would just be a bunch of results, and then I would just open all of these up in new tabs and then see all the jobs coming in. So these jobs would essentially be for all levels, right? They would be for fresher level jobs, and then they would be for mid-level jobs, and then there would be business development manager and all sorts of range, right? So I was essentially looking for an entry-level job. So then I would go on and filter them out, and that's how essentially I started looking for jobs.
So I didn't hear you say something in here that I just want to clarify. You didn't search for sales guru or marketing genie or right? Like I'm being semi-serious and sort of tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is like nobody's searching for that, right? Like they're searching for sales specialist or business development manager, right? Words that are really descriptive. And Shehzad, keep me honest here, but those same sort of words, right? Like as long as you use words that are really material to the role and to the job that's going to be they're going to rank fairly well for SEO, much better than something like a fancy title like business development guru. Am I right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to SEO, there's a few pieces that are extremely important, right? The title is one of those pieces, and as long as you've got you should be able to convey very clearly who you're looking for. And I think it's the same way it works in marketing. I think people have very specific things that they have in mind when they're looking for a job, whether it's WordPress developer or a sales development representative or an inside sales specialist. They're not going to look for digital marketing guru or whatever those things are, right? And I think that the title, if your title clearly communicates who you're looking for, and maybe even the location. I think if you just get those two things right, the relevance of your candidates is probably going to shoot up quite a bit.
I agree. The other thing, particularly in entry-level roles that I have found have given some benefits in the SEO department, are indicating the type of employment, full-time, part-time, contract, right? Like those things are helpful too. Okay, so we sort of just naturally landed on job title because it's the start of the whole thing, right? Like it's what you were searching for. So I think we can walk away with a couple of things, and anything else that you guys want to add, feel free. But no kitschy naming conventions, that sort of stuff. Be pretty direct about what the job is. And even if as a company you call that job something different, think about naming it the conventional name for your job advertisement, right? Like perfect example of that. I have a friend who works at a company and they call their recruiters people specialists. Okay, well, great, but like that has no benefit for SEO, right? You would be far better served to do something like recruiter or talent acquisition recruiter, right? Like so, some of those things. The other thing that I just would like just a quick take from you guys on. I always feel like in a job title, if you put a number in there, it sort of makes you feel less than, right? Like it is a sales executive 2. Well, why am I not good enough to be a sales executive 3? Right? Like, so do the numbers have any benefit from both Shehzad from a marketing perspective, and then Adi from like when you were looking, did that sort of make you feel good or bad or indifferent? Shehzad, let's start with you.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. The way I kind of look at the difference between, as a marketer, the way I look at the difference between a job ad and the job description is the purpose of the job ad is to attract or to entice or to compel you to click and learn more about what the company is offering, right? And so from that perspective, I don't see any value in putting the number there. Right? Because there's always going to be a number that's higher, right? Even if you put there 3, there's going to be a 4, and if you put a 4, there's going to be a 5. So I don't see in terms of attracting a candidate at that first and the first impression that you're making. I think the only thing that you're doing by putting numbers in there is making it sound like you have an extremely hierarchical structure. You can go into details in your job description on, what exactly is the candidate supposed to do, or what their role is, what their day-to-day is going to look like, right? But I don't think there's a place for that in the job ad.
You were talking about once you found a job that had the right title, you would open up those tabs and leave them and sort of look to see which one was at the right job level. Were there specific things in the job description that sort of indicated to you what level of job they were?
I think that most jobs do have a position level, saying either it's mid-level or entry-level, or they do have an experience requirement, say 0 to 2 years or 2 to 5 years or 5+ years. So most job descriptions did have that, which is helpful, of course. And some of them didn't. They were like no restrictions on experience or whatever, and that kind of takes away the credibility, because I think that would make it look like it's not a very well-paying job because they don't really care about what experience you have. And apart from that, a few things that I feel are really important for a job description. The first one being key responsibilities, what you're expected to do there, what kind of tools should you know how to use. So a must-haves list and a good-to-haves list, these two things are something that should be there in job description. And apart from that, the kind of pay scale, some descriptions mention it, some don't. I think it's okay if they don't, but it's better if they do. At least the range of pay that they're going to offer. And
But
Yeah,
that's
Jen, go ahead.
helpful. Yeah, that's helpful, right? Because it tells you a couple of things. It tells you if it aligns with your expectations, but it also gives an indication of job level, right? Like if a more entry level, more experience gets a little bit higher. Both of you mentioned something just now. So we talked about the job description. We don't want it to be kitschy, no sales gurus, none of that kind of stuff, right? We talked about, and you said it in a good way. What are you going to do? Right? Like, I think that that's really important. And, one of the things that I found really interesting when I was at AT&T is that there was a significant amount of our job seekers, almost half, never went to our career site. They only saw our job description. Right. So that's interesting. So, like, I had put, along with a very fabulous team, we'd put a bunch of information out on a career site that talks all about working here, right? What's it like? What's their mission? Blah, 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 right? And so you don't really get all of that in a job description, right? You don't get as much context. So I heard you guys say a couple of things, and I just want you to keep me honest and then add anything else that you have. So non-kitschy title, no numbers, maybe part-time, full-time contract, maybe the city, maybe how do you guys feel about information about the company? Like, why work here? Does that feel like it's okay, but it's not required? Like where does that kind of match up for you guys?
Yeah, I think I think the job ad can probably include a sentence or two tops about the company. The job description can go into a little bit more detail, right? But as long as you can communicate very briefly why you should work here, whether it's an excellent range of benefits or it's an amazing culture that really sets it apart from other companies. I think it's a good to have. But I think, in terms of going into long-winded details, that's probably reserved for the career site or even the description a little later.
I think that that's fair. And, as we sort of wrap up here and we kind of look at a really high level, and guys, I would really encourage you guys to check back. We're going to do a whole series on job descriptions and best practices in writing them, and we'll have different experts. If you're an expert on job descriptions, you have some examples of some really good ones, some really bad ones, feel free to hit me up at Terry Recruit. But really, as we walk away from our very first episode, I guess we're going to call it episode. Thank you guys again for being my guinea pigs. But as we walk away from our first episode, I'm walking away with the following advice. No kitschy titles, call it what it is. Brief information about the company, particularly around why work here, right? Like, it doesn't need to be, this is a Fortune 5 company, right? Like, why work here? What's the people reason to work here? What work are you going to do? And what's required to do that work, and why is it important? Did I miss anything big in sort of that overview?
Yeah, I think I just add one little thing, and that's because of a major player that's going to become more and more important as candidates search for jobs on search engines. And I think that's probably a topic to dive deeper into a series of discussions on its own. But that's Google for Jobs. And again, keeping SEO in mind, making sure your title, your keywords, even things like your URL, and using the help of technology or certain tools or automations that you have to make your job ads more SEO friendly and more effective. I think that's crucial.
I agree, right? Like the litmus test for us at AT&T when I was there was we wanted to be on first or second page at the job level, right? Like, and really, I mean, if we're really talking here about saving money and high quality candidates and those sorts of things, that's a business imperative to get tight on your SEO enough to show up on the first or second page of the organic results. Yeah, I think that's a great ad, Shehzad. Adi, anything else that you would add or just put an exclamation point on?
I saw a bunch of job ads which had huge descriptions, like it would probably extend to 2 pages. There was no formatting, there was no paragraphs, there were no titles for paragraphs. It was just like this one huge ass paragraph which nobody could possibly read, right? It does not look good on the company's part, because it looks like it's just been, somebody just put up a bunch of words together and posted the job ad, and nobody is honestly gonna read it, right? They're probably just gonna read the first two lines, maybe the last two lines, and the rest in the middle is like all noise. So, I think descriptions should be very short, concise, maybe two paragraphs or three, uh, 4 lines in each. So yeah, that's like, I think, a good length for a description. Otherwise, it's just it doesn't add value. Uh,
I think that is awesome, and it's sort of the best way to end and tee up kind of the next episode of Talent Talks, or whatever you guys tell me I should name it, right? I'm totally open to suggestions. And that is, once you start writing it, SEO gets them to the door, right? Like, it's like what brings them to the welcome mat. But once they open the door and start reading that thing, it has got to be compelling, and it has got to be concise. And first and foremost, and I'm going to leave this here because this is where we're going to start our next episode. It cannot have errors. You cannot spell things incorrectly. You cannot format them poorly. It has to be concise, compelling, and error-free. So this week we really kind of talked about, and I'd say week, I don't know how often we're going to do these. You guys tell us. We'll keep doing them as long as people are watching, and when they stop watching, maybe we'll ask if we're not talking about the right things. We'll see. It's real fluid. So you guys tell us. But the next time we will talk about how to make them concise and compelling, and without a bunch of jargon, errors, or odd formatting. So it should be a pretty meaty conversation. So I thank you both for taking this 20 minutes or so with me this morning. It's super informative, and I am certain that we will see you both back here again. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jenn. Thank you, everybody.
Jen. Bye.